Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I am your co-host Ashton here with my awesome co-host Zach, and I'm back. Yeah, after a very needed vacation and a very unneeded sickness, I am back in the flesh. First off, Zach, I want to thank all of our fantastic guests, both Soup, Blaine. I want to thank everyone for coming on and kind of like lending a lot of good knowledge and just really good shows done by you. So I definitely appreciate that in my stead.
Hey, we're just trying to keep things afloat while you were out and away and needed that much needed rest and vacation and got extra time on the couch just vegging out while you were sick. But we're glad that you are back, and I am glad to talk football with you. Feels well. It's been a week. It's been over a week and a half since I've done the last pod, and so I'm just ready to dive back into it. A lot of stuff has happened over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, hey Kevin. Uh, you know, Zach, you're right. There has been no news in last 2 weeks in my stead. No significant cuts, signed. I think it's been actually 3 or 4 weeks. Do you want to go ahead and start going over the news?
Yeah, I mean, we don't. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happened over the last couple weeks. Really, in the last week, nothing has really happened. But obviously, Cooper Cup has officially moved away. He's now a Seattle Seahawk. We have not really discussed that. Me and you have not really discussed it on the pod since then. We did a couple additions. Akel Weatherspoon is back. We picked up a couple of players who I think we'll talk about here when we probably in the next pod, maybe when we focus a little bit more on the defense, but picking up a linebacker, Nate Landman, and then also the Rams bringing back Coleman Shelton. So things that I think that we're going to continue to talk about over the next couple podcasts, especially leading up to the draft and then going into the postseason on what do these moves make? Obviously there's a lot of stuff that has happened, and now we're just trying to figure out what McVay and Les Snead were thinking about pretty much since their loss to the Eagles, and how can they get back and kind of get over that little hump to get back into the Super Bowl eyes. Um, what are you thoughts about the news? Again, we didn't get to have our whole full Cooper Cup going away, video. But he is moving on. He is moving on to a
Mm-hmm.
rival in the Seahawks. And we're going to talk about that throughout this. I think Cooper Cup is going to be named probably quite a bit as we talk about the offense and where we see the future of this going. But do you have any thoughts about him? Maybe choosing the Seahawks, uh, anything like that?
So first off, let me touch on like kind of like the direction and like where they see themselves moving from the Eagles game. I think they see they need little targeted progressions along like areas of weakness. And you can kind of see them targeting different stuff like the secondary, Coleman, Shelton. I think that's a pretty clear sign that they think that rookie center he needs to grow a little bit more. I'm not the most in love with Coleman Shelton being our starting center. But that's definitely something that costed them in that game. And then I would say wide receiver play kind of costed us a little bit. Like Cooper Cup was struggling to get open. And I know people hate to hear that. And when I said, like, when I felt like the team was being pushed by kind of like the players as a whole and his contract to put him on the field when he wasn't necessarily producing in that moment to a level that he needed to for this offense to be productive. And our offense was anemic. It was not good last year, and we need to all be like pretty frank about that. And you can definitely tell. I think the front office agrees with that assessment with the moves they're making, and I would have liked to keep Cooper Cup. I didn't want to cut him, and I felt like he was at a number too high for the front office. I wouldn't have liked keeping him for the same price that the Seahawks got him. So, I mean, it is what it is. He went closer to home with family. I totally get that point of view, wanting to be close to like extended family and stuff. So it was a business decision for him, and we'll see how it works.
Yeah, I mean, definitely was a business decision, through and through. It was tough conversations that Sean McVay had to have. I mean, this week has been all about the business side of the NFL, and so a lot of news has come out from the business side. We got to hear a little bit
Yeah.
more from Sean McVay and from Les Snead, kind of on that movement from Cooper Cup, and basically it was like it was a hard conversation that they had to have. But Sean McVay has kind of learned that is those are the conversations that need to happen. They need to happen person to person, and not just what happened, kind of with Jared Goff's situation. I think that situation was much worse because there wasn't that dialogue. Whether that conversation was awkward between the two, of course. But I think again, Sean McVay, he didn't want to move on from Cooper Cup, but again, for the business, for the Rams to succeed, he thought that they needed somebody in a different position. And again, we'll talk about what made Davante Adams a little bit more um, intriguing, but it is a bummer. It's a bummer that we're going to have to face him now twice a year. It's one of those, you don't want that, but it is what it is. Obviously, like you said, he has family up in Seattle. Um, it is, like I said, it is what it is. We will. I
I
know when Cooper Cup will come, to the stadium for the first time. I don't think he's going to get booed. I think that he will get, kind of a homecoming for that one, for the first, 30 seconds when he comes onto the field. But after that, it's game time. We're settled in, and we're gonna fight to win that game.
I'm just saying people were criticizing me for the fact that I said we should have traded him before trade deadline. We would have had an extra third or fourth
I
if we
don't
would have.
necessarily know if we would have. Again, the Rams don't make the best trades in the world, and so I don't know if we would have
Even a
kept him.
fifth.
And again, I don't. I think the Rams season would have gone downhill faster if we didn't have Cooper Cup. I don't, again, he wasn't the problem for the end of the season. There was many reasons why that we were going in a 4-game slump towards that end, and I think again there was a lot of wear and tear on all the players. Because of all the injuries that we had kind of in the first half of the season. Um, but it is what it is. Time to move on. Time to
Yeah.
really start focusing on what we have going now, which is exciting. I think the Rams are going in a more exciting route, something that we haven't really seen since really the Super Bowl run season. Um, and so I think they're going to get more into a dynamic offense, and I'm kind of really excited to see it. We're going to see having a Davante Adams who can kind of stretch the field a little bit more. We're going to see maybe Tutu Atwell being utilized more. Sean McVay said that this week, that he feels like he is underutilized Tutu Atwell. They re-signed him. We still have Jordan Whittington. Obviously, we have Puka Nakua. All of these offensive weapons who are in the wide receiver room, and that's just who we have currently. That is not even looking in the draft on who we could also possibly get in there. So I do think that the Rams are looking to recreate some of the magic that they experienced in the past on the offensive side, because that is where Sean McVay shines. Sean McVay shines in the offensive play. The defense is and we've seen this in the overall. The defense is going to have to keep up with whatever personnel they have, and they've been really good at picking the right personnel, but they're really focused on having a more dynamic and an explosive offense. So what is your thought about the Davante Adams move? Because again, we have not talked about that since. So I think that is the key. We are replacing Cooper Cup and bringing in Davante Adams. What is your thoughts about the Davante Adams move?
I mean, I like it because it's a short rental. They're not really attached to him for a long time. They have it out a year after. I mean, Davante Adams hasn't been great in the last 2 years. Now he hasn't really had the best quarterback play, and he's been in really bad organizations. So
He's
like,
been traded around a little bit.
yeah, uh, he could still have a little bit of magic in him, and I feel like it it would be hard for him to be as lacking production as Cup was at like the latter half of the last or 5 games. So if he can just be a presence, take on and win like single man coverage from Puka, like I feel like he's a worthwhile signing, and I think he will. So I like the signing in concept. I would say free agency has not been very welcoming to Les Snead. Like I've liked a lot of his moves in the past few years. They just a lot of them have not panned out, and this
I,
team has struggled with signing free agents.
I do agree, but I think this is the best pick that I think he has made in a while, especially on the offensive side.
Yeah.
Outside of Stafford, obviously. But during just the last 3 years of Davante Adams' career, combined with the Raiders and the Jets, his teams went 18-30 in the 40 games he played, and the 48 games he played, and he remained productive though. He was averaging 77.6 yards per game with 30 total touchdowns in those 3 seasons. Um, but again, and this is where when his team was having zero success. Um, so I think that he can still be productive. I want to see him how he is with a good quarterback on a good team who's able to move the ball and have a genius like Sean McVay to be able to scheme things up differently. The question is always going to become: does Stafford become that person? Does Stafford become the focal point of Davante Adams? Does that mean Puka's now going to be decreased significantly? Because Stafford does tend to pick one person and kind of stick with that person for the majority of the season. Obviously, when OBJ came in 2021, he did start taking some of the pull um, from Cooper Kupp. But again, when all things came down to it, Cooper Kupp was the man for that whole season.
I would say like it's gonna be more like that OBJ Cup where like it depend on the game and kind of depend what the defense was like moving their coverage towards. And a lot of defenses chose at that time to move it towards Cup, and OBJ just had to beat single like man press or like single coverage, and he was doing it pretty effectively. And I feel like Davante Adams is going to be better than OBJ was at that point. It,
Yeah,
I really do.
I do agree with you. I think that this is a good move. It's a move that really will make this offense dynamic. I think it's going to help extremely in the red zone, which again the Rams have been kind of dismal in the last couple seasons. Is getting those
Yeah.
those red zone targets and getting into the end zone. And so I really find that Davante Adams is going to shine in those instances. Let Puka take over keep the Cooper Kupp kind of role. Because again, that was the problem. I think we had two versions of what Cooper Kupp did over the last few seasons. And Puka Nacua is now the rising star. He's fresh. He's more agile. He's younger.
Yeah.
Can take that beating a little bit more, and learned everything that Cooper Kupp did. So now you kind of have the Cooper Kupp 2.0 with Puka Nacua, and now you have Davante Adams, who again, you can kind of think of that OBJ position, things the Robert Woods era type spot.
I definitely think they're going to try to go tight end with their first pick,
That's
and
I mean, it's
it's
assuming
going to
that
be interesting.
it's going to be interesting, but again, it's assuming there's a couple. I think there's a couple tight ends that the Rams are looking for. If they don't hit those, I think that you could see them trading back into the second round, getting a couple picks there instead of keeping 26. We could talk about that too. Tight ends, right now, what we have Parkinson, and then we have and Tyler Higbee, and I think Alan Davis is still on the team. So
Yeah.
we still have some tight ends. I think Higbee is still going to be tight end one until we see otherwise, depending on how the draft goes. He's going to have a full offseason of recovery. We saw plenty of juice left in him in the couple of games that he did play in the end of the season. Obviously, he is getting older, but I didn't see enough from the games he played after coming back from his injury that he was going to be, he's going to be degraded so much than what we've seen him be in the past.
I mean, he's fine, but I feel like if you want to lead offense, you need better than fine in your
You,
tight end.
you do, but remember the Rams are at 26, and so if you're looking at the Loveland, if you're looking at the Warren, those people most likely will not be there. The Chargers or the Broncos are going to be looking for a tight end. The Chargers are going to be looking for a tight end. All who are going to pick before the Rams do. So unless the Rams want to get aggressive and move up in the draft,
I think they will.
it's going to need to take something, which is crazy to think that the Rams are going to move up to pick up a tight
Yeah,
end.
they've tried to move up the last 2 years for a tight end.
Sure,
Both
but
years they tried to
no
get
one wants to trade
Kincaid,
up with the
and
Rams. No one wants to trade up with the Rams.
yeah, they tried to get Kincaid, and then they tried to get Brock Bowers, which is still nuts to me. The Raiders took Bowers after having I'll be fine trading for a tight end too, right? Like there's a few tight ends in the league that are kind of underutilized, like a Kincaid, like I forget his name, the second tight end in the Raiders system. It
Mayer.
just Mayer. Like I like Mayer too. So it's like they have options there, but I definitely think this is an offense where you can see McVay salivating for elite tight end play. Like he sees Kittle. He definitely wants a part of that in this offense. And I feel like it's kind of like the sweetness that this offense is missing and been missing for a while. And then, do you want to talk about the Kyren situation?
Well, we disagree
Contract?
completely on the Kyren
Mm.
situation, because again, you go ahead with your pick, your notion.
So I would not re-sign Kyren because I feel like he's going to be too expensive. Personally,
I
I
mean,
would be fine paying him like 3 to 4 to 5 mil, and he's going to be way more than that.
and again, it's fair to both sides. I mean, the conversations are going to be had, and again, do I think that we need to pay the bank for him? No, I don't think so. But again, when he's looking at a lot of spots in the last season as a top, he was top 4, top 5 running back last season. Yes, did he have 1 or 2 games where there was a fumble issue? Yes. Were those games mixed with a lot of other issues around that? Yes. But when you were someone you literally, Kyren Williams was the sole reason why we were able to score in the whole first half of the season. The only reason why we could score.
I do not disagree, but you have to understand this draft is one of the best drafts for running backs that a lot of
Sure.
people have seen in
It's a
last 6, 7 years.
it's a deep bench.
Yeah, a deep bench. You're talking about like the seventh or eighth guy would be number one drafted running back in some other
Sure.
classes, right? Like that's how crazy deep this running back class is. And like you could have someone like Hampton seriously fall to the Rams. Like there's a world where Genty could fall in the like 15, 16 if he gets past like the Cowboys or like teams that shouldn't draft a running back that probably will, stupid organizations.
Sure.
But like is if Genty is there, like you're telling me you don't look at Kyron and be like, you could
Yeah, but
trade
Genty is
Kyron
not going to be
away.
there at 26.
People slide all the time.
They do, but again, there are certain positions where there's certain players that I feel like
I think
are not
Hampton
going to
would be
slide
more
that.
likely. Have you seen Hampton's tape?
I mean, I've seen a little bit of these guys' tape, and I don't disagree that I think that we could. But again, there's also this big learning curve between going from college and going to the NFL. And we haven't seen much of Blake Corum. And look how Blake Corum was, in his last year of his collegiate year. We didn't see a whole lot of him. And maybe that was usage, maybe that was Sean McVay usage, maybe it was just the way it was. But like sometimes you are built for this, and again, I'm not disagreeing that we need to bring somebody in. I think that there needs to be a yin to the yang. I don't think that Blake Corum, and again, it goes back to, I feel like we have the same guy twice. We have the same built kind of guy who are going to do similar things. It's the Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp thing. If you're going to say Blake Corum is Kyren Williams, well, then I need to see him be Kyren Williams. So far, I haven't seen him. He seems built the same way and can kind of do the same things, but Kyren Williams has shown me over the last 2 seasons that he can put in the work, he can grind the ball, he can get the first down when needed, he can get into the end zone when needed. Has he fumbled? Yes, but everybody has fumbled in this league. There's not one running back who has not ever fumbled. And he's going to get quicker. He's working this whole offseason on doing that. And I think because he knows this is going to be the make or break. And again, it's all going to be about utilization. I do think the Rams need to bring in another running back that can maybe be that speedster that we need. I mean, if you look at the Lions, like, I love the Montgomery Gibbs. You have the Sonic and you have the Knuckles. That's what we need on the Rams, and that's what I'm hoping that we can do with some of these running backs in the draft, that we can pull in and be that that Sonic Knuckles 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what direction they go in. I like Kyren. Don't get me wrong. I do like him. I think this team has been a little burned by paying running back, so I'll be interested to see how they
Here's the thing. They've been burned playing everybody. So they've been burned playing quarterback. They've been burned paying a running back. They've been burned paying, X, Y, or Z position.
Stafford worked out.
The only position they don't pay is the linebacker. So, other than that, they've paid and overpaid plenty of times before, and it's just going to be the way that it is. I do wish that Kyren maybe would take a little less money, but again, that's his call. And if the Rams can't pay it, then he'll be moved on. And as sad as that is to say, that is the business that we have. Like, I like Kyren, but I'm not going to overpay for him. I want to make that very clear that I support Kyren. I think that he needs to stay as a Ram because I think he brings a vital utility, especially in that red zone, especially getting in, pushing in to get that extra couple yards to get into the end zone. I think he is the guy for that, but I don't want to overpay for him.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how it works out, but it should be fun on draft night. Either way,
it should be. I think so. I think it's going to be good. I mean, we don't know what the Rams are going to do. It seems kind of the conversations. Obviously, Les Snead is never going to show his hand. Never will. He's going to be a misdirection kind of guy. He was on the Up and Adams podcast, and he was they were kind of joking. Kay Adams was trying to get in on what are you going to do? You're so close to, you're 26. That's almost second. Wouldn't you just push yourself into the second round and get yourself a couple extra picks? He didn't rule that out. He kind of made it seem like, yeah, that seems like it would be a good play, which means, he's probably going to go in the complete opposite direction and try to move up like you were suggesting earlier.
But people need to get it out of their mind that they're going to invest anything in linebacker. Like, they are not going to draft this team in the year of the Lord, 2025, drafting a linebacker in the first round. The way this team values linebacker, they so wanted to not use draft picks on linebackers, guys. They have had Troy Reader on this team for a decade. I know that.
And maybe they weren't ready for the right fit. But again, I think that, you could see it if they moved from 26 and maybe they got 2 second-round picks. I could see them using one of their second-round picks to pick up a linebacker. It's one of those spots where I think they really need to find a good spot in that. They did it with Ernest Jones. I think they can do it again. We're just gonna have to see and play that game.
From everything I've read, the linebacker class is like top heavy, and it has decent depth. Like, for people in the 4th or 5th round, they're like better than usual 4th or 5th round linebackers, but for the most part, you got the first 3 or 4 that are really good, but after that, you're talking about late first, early second round.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
all right. So we talked about Davante Adams. We kind of talked about Puka Nacua. We've talked about the tight end role. We talked about the running back role. Let's talk about the other 2 receivers that that we have. We brought back Tutu Atwell. What is your thoughts about bringing back Tutu Atwell for a 1-year deal?
Mm, I'm fine with the length. A little expensive, especially given his production.
10 million.
Now that could also be part of like trying to entice him to come back, even though he hasn't had a role. If I was him, I would have just left with the way that this team has kind of treated his role and like handled him positionally. Especially with people going down and just like not giving him the snaps, especially when he's like he was doing good with the snaps he got. It
I
wasn't exactly like he was being,
Yeah,
like playing terrible.
it's hard when you have that. Again, you brought it up. I mean, it's hard when you have Puka Nakua, Cooper Cup, you know, um, Robinson, you have Tutu, and you have Whittington, and obviously you also have um, you had why am I blanking on their names? Xavier Smith, and Tyler Johnson. So you
Well,
had a
Tyler
huge wide.
Johnson and Smith were getting more snaps than Tutu, like it
I mean,
whenever Cup and Puka were out.
yeah, and so that's what I said. I kind of just think that it was a utilization problem. I think we've kind of cleaned house a little bit as far as some of this goes, and so I think that you're going to see Tutu Atwell being more of that wide receiver three, being more wide receiver three, and then four with Whittington.
Yeah.
And then obviously we still have Whittington, who I think is going to continue to evolve, and I hope that we can see him more because I do feel like that we saw some good things from him. But again, he was also very underutilized. His snap count was pretty low.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a huge fan of Whittington. I think he's gonna be a future star, and like he just can sit and kind of grow and learn the offense. And we have said this many times. Like, how many times has like McVay been hesitant to trust a rookie? And it's very rare. Very like that's why Puka was so surprising. Because like before then, like it's very hard for rookies to get on the field with McVay. He just doesn't trust them almost ever.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Puka kind of got his kind of way in just because again, Cooper Cup went down, and so
Injuries, yeah.
he had to fill in that spot. So it's just one of those things that we're going to have to look at. So when we look at the draft at 26, obviously there's a lot of things that come to mind. I mean, we're not going to again, we don't want to focus too much on the linebacker position, but is there any other wide receivers that you would want to look at when it comes to um, when it comes to the Rams at pick 26?
Um, I like Matthew Golden. Like Matthew Golden, I like his route running. I think he has good speed. He's like to me, he's almost like a fully improved version of Tutu in every way. Like he has Tutu speed. I would say Tutu has gotten a lot better at route running. And like last year, he was pretty good in comparison. I would like say Golden would be equivalent of that starting out. So like, and he's just a bigger frame, bigger body. Um, and Buka, he kind of interests me a little bit. Um, he's way more roll of the dice prospect there. Like he has good hands. He's a very physical wide receiver. I just don't see like where we would use him currently. Like if you're talking about win now, like going into this next season. But my favorite wide receiver in this draft is Jack Beck out of TCU. I would be fine with drafting him in 26. I think he's the guy I'm going to be targeting in Dynasty this year. He's definitely a crazy good route runner. It just so crisp, like very like sneaky quick. Like there's a few people in the league that do that. Like Cup was a good example. One like he is way quicker at his cut point than you like expect for his body type, and like when you see him And then like when you watch the game and you like see it in person, you're like, wow, that's just like really superb way of like footwork getting out of the cut and just being super quick with getting to that later part of your route. And I feel like Jack Beck just does that so fantastically. And he has been underserved by like really bad quarterback play at TCU in the last year. So Jack Beck, he did great at the Senior Bowl too, which is another thing that I know the Rams love. So I'm in a perfect world, Zach. I would trade back and get Jack Beck and get Elijah Arroyo from Miami. I think Arroyo is also a fantastic tight end. His
Yeah.
blocking needs a little bit of work, but he's great at like catching and just bulldozing over people.
Yeah, I trust you obviously a lot more when it comes to kind of these draft picks. Draft is not my style, but I have been trying to pick up a little bit more. I have been seeing a lot of news about Isaiah Bond as being a potential pick that the Rams may want from Texas.
And
He had a
very
sorry, go
Tutu.
ahead.
So
What'd you say?
very he reminds me a lot of Tutu, like just purely
He
like body stuff.
he feels a little bigger than Tutu. I mean, maybe I
He
mean,
is.
I look at his height and he's 5'11", 180 pounds. He seems like kind of a little bit bigger, maybe sturdier, be able to handle the blocking that the Rams like a little bit more. But he had a pretty good year at Texas: 34 receptions, 540 yards, 5 touchdowns. Um, it's an option out there that I keep seeing out there. Um, I was trying to find. I had another option, but I can't seem to find it.
Yeah, Matthew Golden is kind of like that sweet spot where like you get a little bit of size, physicality, but also you get that speed that you can tell that they really want to incorporate more and more. Like I feel like he could be a great like jet sweep type of guy who can
Yeah,
also like it, from everything I saw on like his clips and stuff, like his blocking like would need a little bit of work, but you know,
that's
he would
something.
be
But that Rams defense or that Rams offense that's what they're built for. So I feel like that's one of the things that they can really teach really really well is
yeah.
how to get into that block scheme and things like that. Obviously, again, I kind of going from here and there. We talked about bringing Coleman Shelton back. I get your point that you probably didn't like that as much. But I think
Yeah.
it does two things. One, it kind of fixes maybe what was the problem. Obviously, Bo Limmer, I think, I personally think he did a phenomenal job taking over the role when really this was Steve Avila or Jonah Jackson's job. At the start, and injuries again happening and shifting of players and things like that. Bo Limmer, I think, did a very admirable job throughout the whole season. Obviously, towards the end of the season and especially the last game, there were a lot of issues. Some of them were just more penalty stuff that kind of just pushed us back when we were really moving forward. Um, but what Coleman Shelton does is obviously, I believe now this is a Coleman Shelton center. I think there still will be some sort of competition, but it would be more for Coleman Shelton's to lose rather than to gain. Um, but he does
I don't think
bring
he
the.
starts the full year.
You don't think he starts year one, or you don't think
No,
he start or week one?
he does start. I don't think he plays the full year.
You think he gets injured, or you think he gets pulled?
No, I think he gets benched for the rookie. I really
Well,
do.
but I think Colton Shelton is being brought in for a really specific reason, and that's to better the communication of that offensive line. When Bo Limmer had to take over, it made Stafford have to do more of the direction and stuff like that. When you had Coleman Shelton in the past, it was much easier to let Coleman Shelton do most of the play or the offensive line calling and be able to kind of direct his teammates on what the play was going to be, instead of
Yeah,
having to
but
solely.
when he was our center, like our offensive line wasn't prolific. They weren't even like good. They were
Yeah,
like at
we were
like
getting pushed.
22 they were terrible, and then 23 like they they were borderline bad. They're okay at moments in that season, but Stafford like was getting destroyed in 23.
Sure, but that wasn't all Coleman Shelton's fault. I mean,
I'm saying he
you're
was also
very
not
negative
stopping
on
them.
these guys. I mean, you don't like anybody
I'm just
on the
I'm
Rams
just
team.
stating the truth. I'm just stating the truth. Like I didn't think Bo Limmer did bad enough to like get benched. Personally,
And
I feel
again,
like he
I
had
don't
a few
disagree.
bad plays in a big game, and I feel like this team sometimes when players do that take out their anger on a player for a few bad
I mean,
like snaps.
he was the most penalized player on the Rams team for the entire year.
Yeah, he was a rookie.
I get that, but he is the most penalized player. And again, I think that Coleman Shelton is a short-term deal. Bo Limmer is a more long-term deal. I do believe that. I think Coleman Shelton is going to come in and he's going to be able to help set the tone. Last year, they didn't have anybody who was setting the tone. You had Jonah Jackson and you had Steve Avila. Those were your only two people that you were flip-flopping at the beginning of the season for center. Now you bring in someone who's a veteran center to help train Bo Limmer into being a better communicator. You had no one on the offensive line to help Bo Limmer succeed in that spot. And I think that this is a move to do so. So I'm not disagreeing. Here's the thing. I am not really disagreeing with you, except for you're very down on Coleman Shelton when I think he's bringing in a lot of positivity to the Rams offense and the offensive line, which I think they need.
I'm just saying the Bears moved
You're
on from him. So
but the Bears are terrible in itself. They picked Caleb Williams. I mean, come on now, go be a Bears fan if that's what you want to be. But let's talk about how Coleman Shelton can benefit the Rams, and I think that he's going to benefit that offensive line. I think he's going to be that communicator and that person that we need to help Bo Limmer, whether he takes it initially week one or sometime he gets put into it at week one or into that position. I think it's going to benefit Coleman Shelton and the Rams offensive line. It's going to benefit Bo Limmer when eventually he would take back over.
Hey, I hope I'm wrong. I'll be happy if they're top 5 line unit.
I'm taking notes.
I'm I really want to be wrong here. So we'll see how it works out with Sheldon. But yeah, those few snaps in divisional game really hurt the team, and sucks for the young kid to get benched like that.
It does, and we'll see how we'll see how it all plays out. Obviously, we also brought Alaric Jackson back. We did extend him. Gotta have your left tackle solidified. So I think definitely bringing Matthew Stafford back kept that train going.
Good left tackle, not great, has his flaws, but good.
Okay, let's talk. Let's go ahead. Bash Stafford. Go ahead. He's up next. Go ahead. Bash him. Go ahead. Bash him. Bash him. You're bashing everybody else. Let's talk about bring in Dart. Let's talk about
Dart.
Bringing in QB Dart to replace Stafford.
Talk
about him.
I wouldn't have liked.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't like Dart as much. I wouldn't mind taking a swing in the late second. Early.
We don't have
third.
a second round pick, so
I know. I'm just saying, if we did, potentially on the Milrow, potentially, but even then, Milrow is going to be boom or bust.
I don't need a backup quarterback. We tried the Stenson Bennett route. Just keep Garoppolo, and I'm okay.
I don't think they're going to go quarterback.
No, I don't think so either. But we gotta talk about all the Rams news that is happening, and everyone wants to project their own little world out there. I don't believe a quarterback, but I thought I would mention it since you wanted to.
I would be surprised if they go defense with their first pick. I feel like McVay has been salivating to get an offensive playmaker with the first round pick in a while. I don't
He,
think he's ever actually drafted a first round pick, offensive player. So yeah,
I it's due, but if he
I
doesn't get who he wants, I would not be surprised for him going back, trading back for 2 seconds, and picking a
they're gonna
defensive
trade
end over.
first round picks, man. I think they're gonna try to go for Warren. I think they're gonna go chips all in.
Just yeah, it's crazy, 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 crazy time.
I still think it would have been worth trading up to get Bowers. Just saying.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. I'm not saying
He-
he's not good.
he's-
He's not good. But Stafford didn't want to play with him, so didn't you know, didn't didn't want to go to the Raiders.
yeah. Hey,
So,
win now, win now.
but anyways, I'm just I don't know really how Ashton feels right now, but I am really excited about the Rams offense and what we have done so far. I really think that the Rams are making the right moves. When we brought in Allen Robinson a couple, in that 2022 season, I was I was I was very mixed on that. I knew he was a good jump baller, and on that contested catch. But I didn't know how that was going to work out. I'm more favorable to this pick because I feel like Davante Adams is that more explosive player than when you talk about Allen Robinson. I thought he was like maybe a higher B character, receiver. But when you talk about Davante Adams, I think he's still in that upper enchilada of A tier. And the Rams were able to convince him. Sean McVay was able to convince him with 10-minute long videos about analyzing and breaking down Davante's skills. So
Yeah. I'm gonna have to see how the draft goes and like positionally how like where they directionally want to take the team. And you
they want
saw
to be
they had a
explosive.
plan.
We know what they want to do. They want to be explosive.
Well, they wanted to be run heavy, like super run scheme, and that did not work out. It definitely didn't the way that they were wanting it to. So, I am before the draft, I'm more positive on the team offense as a
You're more
whole
positive.
than what they were last year. That's not a high bar.
I'm
It's
not hearing
really
a
not a
high
high
bar.
bar.
You bashed our running back. You brushed our tight end. We'll see after the draft. Apparently, we have to wait till after the draft to see if
I
we
didn't
can.
bash Kyren. I just said we shouldn't pay him. That's different.
Semantics, but yes, okay. You've
I
been
know,
gone
I
for a
know you missed
while. You've
me.
been gone for a while. All right.
It's
Well, is there
fine.
anything
My
else?
negativity will rub off on you eventually.
Well, this is the yin and the yang. We have the negativity and the positivity. That's just it's how life should work, and it keeps us in balance, I guess. Anything else you want to talk about the offense?
Uh, no, I mean, I'll just point out I was more positive in 22 than you were. You were very, very down on the team.
I was
Um,
down on the team midway. I don't even know if that's actually true. We're gonna have to rewind the tape. We'll rewind the tape next time on this.
yeah.
I mean, I was
Yeah.
down on it. I mean, when you lose all the players that you did lose, you moved away from Robert Woods, you moved away from OBJ. You really were going into it. It was going to be Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp, and you had no idea who Puka Nakua even was going to be. Oh well, that was in 23. So 2022, yeah, it was complete shambles. So,
Yeah. It's
anyways,
Skoranek and Tutu.
oh yeah, Skoranek, Tutu, and Van Jefferson. Um, so was not our most ideal situation, but I think now we're in a better spot than we were, and we're not even at the draft yet. So we'll break it down. I think the next time on the next episode we're going to talk about the defense. I'm really excited about that. The defense
Uh-huh.
is pretty solid. Obviously,
Oh,
there
I'm
are a few.
hyped.
There are a
I'm
few. Oh
hyped.
man,
I'm
hyped.
hyped for defense. Like
Um,
Puna Ford. Ooh.
yeah. So,
Ooh.
tease. All right. So he's not going to bash Puna Ford. That's good. We know that. Check that off the list. But no, I'm really excited to talk about the defense. I think that the defense is one of those areas where this will be next time, so I'm not really talking about it, but I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about it, as you can tell. So we'll save it. Everything else good? Good.
No, man. I had fun at Disney. I'm happy you guys had two great pods. It's nice listening to the pod, not having to talk, even though I couldn't talk at the time because I was sick afterwards. And yeah, I can finally talk now, and I can actually eat. And we were talking about that off camera, and feeling better, feeling better.
Hey, we can only go up from here. We got the draft in like what 4 weeks, 3, 4 weeks. So again, looking forward to it. We'll finally get to nail down, plan more about what the Rams are going to do in this offseason. Get to decide, get to see the schedule soon. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Missing football, but the UFL playing right now, and my DC Defenders 1-0.
Okay, well, on that note, we are going to wrap this week's episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. Thank you to each and every one of you who have joined us live. We appreciate you. You can find us live each and every time we do the podcast at youtube.com/@EastCoastRams. You can find us on all the social media platforms, including X at East Coast Rams. You can find us on Instagram and Threads at East Coast Rams Pod, and you can find us on Blue Sky. I'm Zach. That's Ashton, and we will see you guys next time.